He carried a heart that was about to be broken. That was how he eventually died. He carried his heart open and vulnerable from Jordan to Jerusalem, from Gethsemane to Golgotha, and then it was broken. Broken by the savagery of the death he was about to face. Broken by the sheer uncompromising weight of all the other things he carried. But most of all, broken by the love that brought him to this moment of self-surrender. Things slot into place. The halves of the cross are put together, nailed down, weighed down, strung up, but also lifted up. Boiled in the heat of the sun, shifting his weight from nailed wrists to nailed feet, facing the torturous choice between suffocation and rending pain, the last hours of his life begin. He looks again at his mother. She is just standing there, a sword of pain piercing her heart too. He sees the beloved Apostle John and a few other women from his group. Everyone else has gone. There is a terrible loneliness in dying. The hours pass. A strange overshadowing darkness creeps over the land, and suddenly there is a chill in the air. The noisy heckling of the crowd gives way to boredom and silence. One of the soldiers nods off. Some of the crowd start to drift away. The show is nearly over. Those who thought something spectacular might happen depart, disappointed, but not really surprised. There is business to be getting on with. The agony is now at its worst. His temperature soars. His eyes swim. Disjointed, he heaves upward to gasp another breath. Everything is fading. Sweat peppers his body. Blood flows. He gasps with thirst, rasping and raging. I am thirsty. Everything disjointed, stretching. His body starting to fail. Falter. His ability to resist starting to fade, expiring. No longer carrying the will to live, abandoned now. The barometer crashing, the distant thunder rising, blood pressure falling, heart pounding, the end in sight. His lungs fill with fluid and it's like he's taken a big breath in but can never breathe out again. His body clinging to life but the grip slipping. This is the awful truth that dawns on the few who see him there. He cannot carry his life any longer. Death rattles in the parched emptiness of his throat, and eventually, crying out in thirst, the condemned man dies. His heart breaks. Then there was silence. Deaths like these always cheat the onlookers of a defining moment. They are still watching. They are still waiting. Their vigil continues, as if the death has not yet arrived, as if it could still be cheated. The soldiers fidget impatiently, wanting to go home. The religious leaders and the politicians wait anxiously, wanting to hear that it is over, coveting normalcy, smoothing things over. The Sabbath is approaching, and for those who only long for the status quo to be resumed, Jesus is still a problem. Everyone agrees this. It would be much better to bring things to a close, just to have it done with. So the religious leaders barter with Pilate, and the soldiers are told to bring the cycle of suffering to an end. The soldiers need to be sure. One of them lifts a spear, and to make sure he is dead, pierces his side. This is the real moment of disclosure, the moment when the balance tips, and we see with astonished elation that something else is happening. As if in slow motion, the spear pressed violently into his heart is withdrawn. First, a tiny spot of blood and then a droplet of water. It washes from his heart 2 tiny streams. It is hardly discernible, not recognisable. You could pass it by 1,000 times, and yet at the same time, in my mind's eye, a mighty river coming out of heaven to earth, a new creation, water and blood streaming from his heart to mine. Now I see what he carried. I see the weight of it. I see what was always at the heart of it. This is where I can be refreshed. This is where I can be fed. This is the place where burdens are relieved. This is a path to follow. I look at the dead Jesus hanging on the cross and the water and blood flowing from his side, and it feels like he picks me up. He is carrying me. Not just because I have fallen and the way is hard. He is carrying me somewhere, to these living waters, to this shed blood, to this place of refreshment, to a new creation and a new reality. These are the waters where I can be washed clean. His heart is broken for me. His hands hold me to himself and holds himself to that cross with a greater strength than any nail could ever muster. We are crucified with him and we are carried by him. So here I stand. It is as if everyone else has departed and I am alone at the foot of the cross. The day is almost over and Jesus waits upon me. He looks at me with such tenderness. He won't make this decision for me. He just waits. And until that day when God gathers together all the scattered fragments of his creation, he will go on waiting. His offer remains the same. There is nothing I need to do to earn it or deserve it. It is just there, carried by this cross. I feel the weight of it. I see the extent of it, and I am faced with a choice. It is the same choice that every person faces or avoids. The same choice those criminals either side of him encountered as their lives etched towards death. Shall we sneer, or shall we ask to be remembered?